Bronson Reed's carnage. The night Raw stood still. 330 pounds of pure destruction rained down from the heavens, and when the dust settled, two men lay broken, bleeding, and unconscious on the cold concrete floor. This wasn't a match. This wasn't even a fight. This was an execution, and the executioner? Bronson Reed just reminded the entire WWE universe why some monsters don't need championships to prove they're the most dangerous force in professional wrestling. What you're about to witness changed everything. Before the cameras rolled, before the pyro lit up the arena, before Monday Night Raw even began on December 29, 2025, one man turned the backstage area into his personal graveyard. And if you think you've seen brutality before, if you think you understand what it means when someone snaps, when someone breaks, I'm telling you right now, you have no idea what Bronson Reed is capable of until you see what he did to Paul Heyman and Bron Breaker. But before we dive into this absolute madness, I need you to do something for me. I need you to understand that what we do here at SLAMZONE, we do it for you. Every single week, we break down the moments that matter, the stories that shake the foundation of professional wrestling, and we do it because we believe you deserve to feel every emotion, every heartbeat, every devastating blow. So if you've been watching from the shadows, if you've been enjoying these breakdowns without joining our family, today's the day. Hit that subscribe button. Not for me, not for YouTube's algorithm, but because you deserve to be part of something special. You deserve to be part of a community that lives and breathes this passion. Ring that notification bell, because trust me, after what you're about to hear, you won't want to miss a single upload. Drop a comment below and tell me if you think Bronson Reed has officially become the most terrifying force in WWE. Share this with every wrestling fan you know, because this story, this moment, it needs to be heard. Now, let's rewind to December 29th, hours before Raw went live. The backstage area of the arena, typically a organized chaos of production crews, superstars warming up, and staff rushing to prepare for the night show. It's supposed to be controlled. It's supposed to be safe. But on this night, safety went out the window the moment Bronson Reed walked through those doors with murder in his eyes. Reports started filtering out immediately. Reed wasn't scheduled for the pre-show segment. He wasn't supposed to be near the production area. But there he was, moving with purpose, his jaw clenched, his massive fists balled up, and anyone with half a brain got out of his way. You could feel it in the air, that electricity, that sense that something catastrophic was about to happen. The rumors had been swirling for weeks. Reed had been overlooked, disrespected, passed over for opportunities while others, smaller men, less intimidating men, got spotlight after spotlight. The pressure had been building, and every single person in that building knew it. But nobody, and I mean nobody, could have predicted the level of violence that was about to unfold. Paul Heyman, the wise man, the advocate, the man who built careers with his words, who orchestrated the rise of legends, who had survived decades in this business by being the smartest person in the room. He was standing near the production trucks, phone pressed to his ear, probably coordinating something for his tribal chief, completely unaware that his world was about to come crashing down. Reed spotted him first. And in that moment, you could see it in Reed's body language, the slight pause, the way his shoulders tensed, the way his breathing changed. This wasn't random. This was calculated. This was personal. Heyman turned around, and the color drained from his face. The phone dropped from his hand, clattering to the concrete, and he held his hands up, the universal gesture of surrender, of please don't do this, of I'm not a wrestler, I'm just a manager. But Reed didn't care. Reed wasn't interested in mercy. Reed wasn't interested in explanations. Reed was interested in destruction. What happened next, it's almost difficult to describe because of how fast it happened and how brutally efficient it was. Reed charged forward, and Heyman tried to run, tried to escape, but there's no outrunning a freight train. Reed grabbed him by the back of his suit jacket, lifted him like he weighed nothing, like he was a child, and drove him skull-first into the side of a production truck. The sound, that sickening thud of bone-meeting metal, it echoed through the backstage area. People screamed. People started running. But nobody stepped in. Nobody tried to stop it. Because when you see Bronson Reed in that state, when you see that level of rage unleashed, self-preservation kicks in. Heyman crumpled to the ground, already bleeding, already hurt, but Reed wasn't finished. He dragged Heyman up, blood streaming down the wise man's face, and threw him against a stack of equipment cases. The cases toppled over, metal clattering everywhere, and Heyman was buried underneath, gasping, pleading, completely defenseless. This was the man who talked his way out of everything, who negotiated, who manipulated, and now his words meant nothing. Now he was just another victim in Reed's path of destruction. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn. Bron Breaker, the second-generation powerhouse, the Intercontinental Champion, the man being groomed as the future of Monday Night Raw, he heard the commotion. He came running from the locker room area, still in his street clothes, thinking he could be the hero, thinking he could stop this madness. And you have to respect that courage, you have to respect that instinct to protect, to defend. But courage without caution is just stupidity, and Bron Breaker was about to learn the hardest lesson of his young career. Reed turned, saw Breaker approaching, and for the first time, he smiled. Not a happy smile. Not a friendly smile. A predator's smile. The smile of someone who just found bigger prey. Breaker didn't hesitate. Credit to him, he went right at Reed, spear attempt, trying to use his signature move to take the big man down. But Reed saw it coming, sidestepped, and caught Breaker in midair with a massive clothesline that turned the young champion inside out. Breaker hit the ground hard, the impact forcing the air from his lungs, and you could see the shock on his face, the realization that he had just made a terrible mistake. Reed pulled him up by his hair, and what happened next was just systematic destruction. Body slam onto the concrete. Elbow drop. Another elbow drop. Reed was methodical now, precise, making sure every blow counted, making sure every impact did maximum damage. Breaker tried to fight back, throwing desperate punches, but they barely fazed Reed. It was like watching someone try to fistfight a bulldozer. The crowd that had gathered, the wrestlers, the staff, everyone was frozen. Some had their phones out, recording, because in 2025, that's what we do, we document our own horror. Others were yelling for security, for someone, anyone, to stop this. But security? What were they going to do against Bronson Reed? What could they possibly do? Reed grabbed Breaker and Heyman, one in each massive hand, and dragged them toward the staging area, toward the entrance ramp, and that's when everyone realized, this wasn't just a backstage assault. Reed was making a statement. He was sending a message to everyone watching, everyone in that locker room, everyone in WWE management. This is what happens when you ignore Bronson Reed. This is what happens when you overlook the monster. He positioned both men near some equipment, and then, in a moment that will be replayed forever, that will be studied in wrestling schools and analyzed in documentaries, Reed climbed up onto an elevated platform. The same platform that stagehands use to adjust lighting, the same platform that's about 12 feet high, not designed for what was about to happen. If you're watching this and you haven't hit that like button yet, do it now. Do it because you need to see where this is going. Do it because SLAMZONE is the only channel that gives you this level of detail, this level of raw, unfiltered breakdown of the moments that define our sport. Subscribe if you believe that wrestling matters, that these stories matter, that understanding the depth of what happens in and around that ring matters. We're building something special here, and I want you to be part of it. Reed stood on that platform, 330 pounds of muscle and rage, and he looked down at his victims. Heyman was barely conscious, blood covering his face and his expensive suit. Breaker was moving, trying to crawl away, trying to escape, but his body wasn't cooperating. And Reed, he took one last look around, making sure everyone was watching, making sure this moment would be captured, would be remembered, and then he jumped. The Tsunami. Reed's finishing move, a top rope splash that has ended careers, that has put men on the shelf for months. But this wasn't from the top rope. This was from 12 feet up, onto concrete and metal, with no ring canvas to absorb the impact, no give, no mercy. He came down like a meteor, like divine judgment, and he crashed down across both men simultaneously. The sound was unlike anything I can properly describe. It was bone-breaking, it was career-ending, it was the sound of bodies being crushed under immense force. The impact was so violent that equipment nearby shook, that people watching physically recoiled, that several crew members turned away, unable to watch. Reed rolled off his victims and stood up, somehow, incredibly, under his own power. The man had just sacrificed his own body to deliver that level of punishment, and he stood up. But Heyman and Breaker? They didn't move. They couldn't move. Medical staff finally rushed in, pushing Reed back, screaming at him, but he didn't resist. His job was done. He had made his point in the most devastating way possible. Stretchers were brought out. Both men were carefully, slowly loaded up and transported to local medical facilities. The reports that came out later that night were horrifying. Heyman, suspected fractured ribs, severe concussion, lacerations requiring stitches. Breaker, even worse, cracked vertebrae, internal bruising, questions about whether he'd be able to compete at the Royal Rumble just weeks away. Two men, two careers potentially altered forever, and all because Bronson Reed decided that diplomacy was over, that talking was finished, that the only language left was violence. Monday Night Raw went on that night, but it was different. The energy was different. You could feel the tension, the fear, the understanding that something fundamental had shifted. Commentary acknowledged what had happened, showing censored footage, discussing the fallout, but nobody could quite capture the raw, unfiltered brutality of those moments. And Reed? He appeared later that night, walked to the ring during a segment, said nothing, just stood there, and the entire arena went silent. Not because they were booing, not because they were cheering, but because they were afraid. The WWE Universe was afraid of what they had just witnessed, afraid of what might come next, afraid of what happens when a man that size, that powerful, that skilled, decides that the rules don't apply anymore. This is professional wrestling at its most dangerous, at its most real. These aren't cartoon characters. These aren't actors playing pretend. These are athletes putting their bodies on the line, and sometimes, the line between performance and reality gets blurred, gets crossed, gets completely obliterated. Bronson Reed obliterated that line on December 29, 2025. The aftermath is still unfolding. Heyman has been off television, recovering, his status uncertain. Breaker had to relinquish the Intercontinental Championship due to injury, a devastating blow to his momentum, to his career trajectory. And Reed? Reed has become the most feared man in WWE, possibly in all of professional wrestling. Nobody wants to face him. Nobody wants to be in his path. And honestly, can you blame them? What we witnessed was more than just an attack. It was a paradigm shift. It was a statement that in 2025, in this era of WWE, unpredictability is the new normal, and violence, real, unscripted violence, can happen at any moment. It was Bronson Reed saying to the world, "You thought you knew what a monster looked like, but you had no idea." This is what makes wrestling compelling. This is what makes us come back week after week. Not the scripted promos, not the rehearsed matches, but these moments of chaos, these moments where you genuinely don't know what's going to happen next, where the stakes feel real, where the consequences matter. Bronson Reed gave us one of those moments, and whether you love him or hate him, whether you think he went too far or not far enough, you cannot deny the impact. Before I let you go, one more time, I need you to join the SLAMZONE family. Hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell, drop a like on this video, and share it with every wrestling fan you know. Tell me in the comments, what do you think happens next? Does Reed get his World Championship opportunity? Does he face consequences from management? And most importantly, when Heyman and Breaker return, will they want revenge? Your voice matters here. Your opinions matter. This isn't just a channel, it's a community, and I want you to be part of the conversation. December 29, 2025, will be remembered as the night Bronson Reed reminded everyone why some forces of nature can't be controlled, can't be reasoned with, can't be stopped. The Colossal One climbed to the top, looked down at his enemies, and delivered devastation that will echo through WWE history for years to come. This has been SLAMZONE, bringing you the real stories behind the chaos. Until next time, stay locked in, stay passionate, and never forget that in this business, anything can happen, and when it does, we'll be here to break it down. Peace.